Just want to apologize, you're not going to be seeing anything in this video, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the video that I uploaded yesterday with the modern day prophets. I didn't know what I was talking about. Like, I didn't do research, right? I watched a documentary about Bob Marley recently, and then when I was really young, like many, many years ago, over 20 years ago, I watched something with Sinead O'Connor. I obviously know about the Beatles, but just like what everyone knows about the Beatles, like very mainstream pop trivia kind of stuff. And then Kurt Cobain, I probably know more of from my teenage years, but yeah. So I was looking a little bit more into a theme that I saw with all of them was about their parents and feeling rejected or feeling neglected in their childhood. But then specifically an issue around a father, a missing father, an abandoning, rejecting father, really difficult issues around masculinity, around the divine masculine, if you will. So looking at Bob Marley, that was the first one I talked about. Bob Marley, I randomly picked out the song Cornerstone. I didn't realize that actually this was a song he wrote about his father rejecting him. And this is from a documentary that was about him. It says Bob went to see his father and was rejected, which inspired him to write the song Cornerstone. And I'm guessing this is his father's name, Norvell. He died of a heart attack in 1955 when Bob was 10 years old. So there's a lot of that. And then when I was reading the lyrics for Cornerstone, it was something about, let me just pull them up. The stone that the builder refused will always be the head cornerstone. You're a builder, here I am a stone, don't you pick and refuse me, because the things people refuse are the things they should choose. So that was it. I was thinking of it more in a sense of, the things that people don't realize, like their blind spot in life. And then I was saying that it's kind of like Carl Jung. I didn't realize that it was like his father had rejected him, but that was such a strong theme, I think, throughout all of the 5 people that I discussed, that it's kind of interesting to think about what that means, because the reason I even did this video was after I did the Jesus one. Wait, I don't want you to just look at an empty table here and my t-shirt. So I'm just going to pull out some cards. I want to understand the father for the prophet. Yeah. The father, the prophet's father. So let's just look at the prophet. Just get like a symbolic kind of energy check. And then what's the father of the prophet? And then I think maybe there's a weaker role, but I'm gonna look at the mother, the prophet's mother. It's so interesting. Okay, the prophet's mother keeps him on track towards his north node. This is the prophet. Oh, wow, yeah. I don't think this is going to make sense to anyone. This is like the weirdest thing. But this is the energy I kept picking up, which was this kind of paradox, like 2 things being held at once. That energy of this is true and so is this, and I have to hold these 2 opposing energies as true in order to lead the people. I brought that up with Bob Marley, with Sinead O'Connor, with Tupac Shakur. I don't think it was Kurt Cobain, I don't know, but also with John Lennon. And they all had it in different ways. So with Bob Marley, he had to hold like these two energies of truth. And he had to do a lot of balancing because he had the Temperance card, which is all about balance and alchemy. And that was his art. That was the way that he healed himself, and that he healed other people too that way. For Sinead O'Connor's The Two of Swords, it was like she had to do this thing where like it's almost an insecurity of like not knowing which way to go, having opposing thoughts, having a lot of instability of the mind, but then somehow having a really direct and clear message when she did finally speak, or when she did. But you know what, that's also really interesting about her life, because she was constantly kind of finding herself, rediscovering her religious path, like being ordained a priest, but then later on in life just, discovering she's actually Muslim, and then joining the Muslim faith. I don't know. It's like a lot of that kind of, I see that as an instability in some way. It's interesting. I don't know what else to say, but yeah. So this is the father. This is traditionally the card of the father, the emperor. Initially, what came out was strength and the magician. The father actually has a really strong role, and that's something that I've discovered in working with clients in the past. When a client would say to me something along the lines of, oh no, well, my father really wasn't there. Like, there's nothing to talk about with the father. I'm like, no, actually, like, if you're gonna say he wasn't there, then that's the big missing piece. That's the hole. That's the missing piece. That's the thing that you're really aching for. That's the thing that you're constantly searching for. That's the thing that in relationships you're constantly craving, right? To figure that out, to figure out that missing piece. And so their rise to power, their ability to be men, or to be, I mean, even with Sinead, I was seeing like a masculine energy coming out. That's them, I don't know, I mean, there's a feeling of like raising themselves from childhood, being able to be their own parent. It's like a miracle. So with the magician, I'm just seeing in the strength card, it's like these people endured things that can only be described as miracles. The fact that they got out of it, alive even. And then the journey, the solitary journey. But the father is a very strong, prevalent character for these people. They're constantly working out some kind of conflict with the masculine or the father figure through their work, through their music. The mother holds this energy, which this exact card came up for, John Lennon and Tupac. And remember with Tupac, if you watched it, I was talking about him kind of being at a crossroads, not knowing which way to go. And then having to choose, like he chose, the path that he chose wasn't the one that was in front of him. Like the path that was in front of him may have been more of a criminal, right? Like the people that he met in his life. So actually I ended up looking up, I looked up most of them, I don't think all of them, but I looked up Tupac. His childhood, it's insane. I mean, so what I found, I don't know where it is right now, but it was kind of like he grew up in homelessness, and he was in so much poverty, his family, like his early life, and constantly moving as well. I don't know if I'll find it. It's like this whole thing I read about him yesterday. I don't know if I'm gonna find it, but it was kind of like just him talking about his childhood and how hard it was for him, and that he was crying a lot because he was in shelters, or his mom. Did I read about her? Sorry, this is so messy. But I read something about her, I think, having an attempt on her life. Shakur was raised by his mother, Afeni Shakur. She was actually in jail. Oh, no. No. See, that's why I have to read before. She was in jail on bombing charges during her pregnancy, so she was a Black Panther. And so was his father. And he had no contact with his biological father, Billy Garland, until he was an adult. Shakur was originally named Lassane Parish Crooks, but his moniker was soon changed to Tupac Amaru Shakur. Tupac Amaru means shining serpent. He had a difficult childhood, moving frequently around the New York City boroughs of Brooklyn and the Bronx. Shakur received an education in radical politics from his mother, but he also saw some of life's hardships through her struggles with substance abuse. Oh, interesting. He attended the Baltimore School for the Arts, where he took acting and dance classes, including ballet. While living in Baltimore, he discovered rap and began performing as MC New York in the late 1980s. He joined the Oakland, California-based hip-hop group Digital Underground. Okay. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to, touch on that because interesting with the father, right? And then who else was there? John Lennon had an interesting thing. And that was coming up in the lyrics. And I honestly was just picking out random songs. I had no idea what I was picking out. I was just... And it's weird how, all the songs were connected to this. I don't know what the hell. It was so weird. But yeah, that's how this works, I guess. Your intuition, you just gotta trust it. John Lennon, his father, rejected him as well or something. Let's see if I can figure it out. John Lennon, childhood. And he did grow up as an orphan, so it wasn't actually an orphan. When he was 4 years old, Lennon's parents separated, and he ended up living with his aunt Mimi. Lennon's father was a merchant seaman who was not present at his son's birth and did not see a lot of his son when he was young. Lennon's mother, Julia, remarried but visited him and Mimi regularly. Crazy. What a crazy life. And why did I think that I heard something about his father being killed, but I don't know if that's... Father... Yeah, I don't know if that was true. Alfred had so his father's name was Alfred, had very low contact with his son until Beatlemania when they met again. But later the pair had only intermittent contact with each other. He died in Brighton, England, where he had lived since marrying. Okay, no. But, so basically, just a weird relationship with the father keeps showing up. I don't know what was Sinead O'Connor's. I'm gonna look that up quickly. I don't really care to, know about people's lives like this, but I think it's interesting, and I'll tell you why. Her parents were John Oliver, Sean O'Connor, a structural engineer, later turned barrister and chairperson of the Divorce Action Group, and Joanna Marie O'Grady, who married in 1960. Okay, that's not interesting. I just want to know, what her childhood was like in terms of, was her father present? Had a difficult childhood. Her parents divorced early on, and her mother was frequently abusive. She was sent to reform school after being caught shoplifting. think she grew up with her mother and not her father, but I don't know. Her parents divorced when she was 8. Yeah, so she had an abusive childhood. I mean, that's already enough. But the voice is cracked and rasping, carrying with it every cigarette, late night, and heartbreak. Voice that provides a commentary for a new film. Yeah, I don't know. It was good timing. The world was on fire with women speaking out against the patriarchy, and it was a time of Me Too as well, so there was all this noise and activism. She had called out such things, such as the way the church had been responsible for so many women's mental illness in Ireland, including her mother's, quite a time earlier, so it seemed appropriate to hear her voice again, and she obviously felt the same way. Sinead describes the horrific abuse she suffered at the hands of her late mother, Mary. She recalled, I don't want to read what she did to her, but the film also reveals unsettling truths about Sinead's early career. See, it says, after years of railing against critics who wanted to silence her, there's something about that came up in the reading, and it was kind of like I was feeling like she's still a child, like she's still this little girl, and it was this card that came out, page of coins, and it was how her mother treated her, that just kind of continued through her, which is so terrible, through her like lifetime as an artist, that she felt criticized and silenced, and made to feel, I don't know, like questionable, like she is a questionable person, or like a freak, or creepy, or bad person. And I do remember this in the 90s, like I was a kid, but I remember like all the hoopla around Sinead O'Connor being crazy or something, but like she was just speaking up. She was speaking up about things that happened in the church, and like, yes, she was outraged. I think she like cut a photograph of the Pope or something on stage and like shaved her head and that whole thing, but like it's like something, the reaction was like to what she was doing. I don't know. So the mother's here, just as a general, is an emotional attachment to youth. That's where the mother comes in. So also helping in some way shape their message and drive them towards their North Node. And if I remember correctly, Sinead O'Connor's North Node is Taurus. Her South Node is Scorpio. So her lifetime, a lot of it was about Scorpio, psychological, like Scorpio's like in-depth psychology. And there's something that I've read about Scorpio South Node, which is this need, a feeling of needing to give people emotional support in order to be helped financially. And it's like an unhealthy attachment to her mother. It's like sticking to childhood. And they all had this. And the father wasn't present. I don't know how present he was in her life. I'm just seeing that she was raised by her mother from the age of 8. I mean, I'm guessing he was still there, but maybe he wasn't like the main parent in her life. And who else was there? Kurt Cobain, I think was raised by his mom as well. Like that I've already seen a lot of documentaries about when I was younger, and I remember that like he had abuse from his mother's boyfriends or partners who would live with them, and they were abusive to him. And I don't think the mother was abusive. I think she was just kind of weak-willed, like didn't know how to like stand up to these people or something like that. And yeah, I don't know why I'm bringing all this up. I guess just like I'm seeing the father as having an important role in shaping the prophet, as I'm calling them prophets, and then looking at Jesus and how Jesus, like, right, his father was God. So that means, what could that mean, right? If someone says their father is God, what could that mean? What does that mean about their earthly father? It's not existent at all. That's like a very sad place to be, where you have to say, well, my father's God. And I get that people now use that, I think it's because of Jesus, they use it as like a spiritual thing. But I think that it's more of a sad thing. I think that it's more sad and sorrowful that your earthly father can't be there for you, even though they are alive. It's not that they're gone from this world, it's just that they're abandoning their children willingly. So far, that's the John Lennon story, that's Bob Marley story, that's Kurt Cobain on some level, I think, and maybe Sinead O'Connor as well. And Tupac, well, it just says his father wasn't there. Crazy. So I think that's all I wanted to share, but maybe, I don't know if there was something else that I wanted in terms of like lyrics. Did I discover something when I was... No, maybe not. I know that like with Nirvana, but I mentioned that in the first video, like Kurt Cobain with like, there's in that song All Apologies, he's talking about feeling shame or feeling responsible, like I take all the blame. And isn't that like what kids who are abused, right? They're made to take all the blame. I'm just thinking here for a minute. I'm trying to absorb the message. This lonely, solitary path that they were all on, they were forced on because of their childhoods that were very messy. And then even when the mother steps in and she's a strong figure, there's a sense that still these mothers are not able to take care of their children on their own. Tupac Shakur's mother, like dealing with drug addiction. Kurt Cobain's mother, I think, just struggling with men and constantly bringing in new men who aren't reliable and aren't strong and aren't supportive and not good role models for a child to have around. And I don't even know the Bob Marley story with his mom, but it seems like there's just a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, and much of it being placed on the father. But then with John Lennon, it seems like both parents just kind of gave up on him. And the mother was still part of his life, but maybe couldn't really take care of him the way that she needed to, and so he was staying with his uncle and aunt. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to add. It's very short, but I just wanted to confirm that like whatever I was talking about yesterday had a basis. I just didn't read these things, and I probably should have before. And what really surprised me was that song Cornerstone, and the two songs I put up for John Lennon. They were both talking about his parents neglecting him. Again, random songs I just picked out. The way I was doing it yesterday was like I would think of a word. So I just thought of the word stone and I searched that. And then with Sinead O'Connor, I thought of the word war, and I searched for war, and then with, because I thought, like, I think she spoke up against war, and I wanted to, like, bring out that kind of activist in her and see what she had to say. And then with John Lennon, I don't even know, I think I just wrote lyrics and they came up. Crazy. And the Tupac one was, let's see if I can find it. One day at a time and no lights on. Oh, mindful of demons. I don't want to hear them anymore. Sometimes it's hard to wake up in the morning mindful of demons. I don't want to hear them anymore. Got me heartbroken. So many babies screaming because they seen destruction before they see a human being. Isn't that the story? So they start smoking weed. We'll never get our day until we learn to pray, keep our families in shape because they all broken. Why do ghetto birds die before we learn to fly? Somebody else's child caught in gun smoke and weed can all make a change, so I'm told, but I haven't seen the change unfold. I'll keep hoping, please, if you prefer to breathe. What's happening here is like people who are using poetry and lyrics, which is basically poetry, to talk about things that are really painful that they didn't feel like they could speak up about. They felt that they had to silence themselves. And so on some level, poetry is a way to talk about things that feel unspeakable, that feel difficult to access, because this world isn't ready for it, right? We're talking about the shadow and these people bringing to light other people's shadow. And that came up very strongly in the Jesus video, where like he was persecuted because he was a light in the darkness. And they learned, maybe through history, to give their message in a poetic way, but then they suffer from it. And I think maybe that's why I brought up these people as prophets, is because it's not just that they had these really strong messages for the world and trying to guide people towards the light, they also suffered consequently from having these messages, from being a light in darkness. And that's the Hermit card. That's totally the way of the Hermit, right? Like guiding the world with this lantern. They walked this path, they found their own light, they healed themselves, and then they were trying to heal the world, they were trying to spread the message. But the message kind of got caught in this darkness, it got caught in other people's motivations and other people's, even people giving them, I'm getting that like even people giving them the money and the praise and the fame and all the stuff that they want, even that just kind of watered down their message. Because it made them materialistic. It made them all about the money and the fame, and that's not what they were about. Because they were still connected with their child story. It's like at some point their development cuts to a halt because of trauma. And they're reliving that part of their lives. And as adults, they're trying to break free from that. Right? Like I was saying about Sinead O'Connor feeling like this little kid all the time, like this little girl who's being shut up, being told to be quiet, and then having to fight it and really feeling triggered. And that's the mental illness. It's not even mental illness. It's someone that's not mental illness, come on. That's someone who's being triggered because of trauma. Just needs some compassion and understanding. Our world is so crazy where, I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? Our world is crazy enough where someone who's being abused, the victim is then going to be called mental because they're speaking up about what happened to them, and they're needing some compassion, and they're needing some love and care to hold that space for it. But there's a missing part with that father figure, and there's a missing part with a mother who's not able to be strong enough for her children. So it's not just the father. And that brings another layer into the story. So that's all I got for now.